At last, the LA Rams finalized their 53-man roster, and this roster looks to be one of the deepest rosters in the Sean McVay era, if not the deepest. But with that came some surprising cuts, which we'll get into. But first, let's break down who made this roster. Starting off with the quarterbacks, we ended up keeping 3 quarterbacks, one being Matthew Stafford, of course, and then Jimmy Garoppolo, QB2, and Stetson Bennett, QB3. I'm honestly very happy with this quarterback room for the Los Angeles Rams because obviously I have all the faith in the world and confidence in Matthew Stafford. Wouldn't want anybody else at quarterback for the Rams. And then Jimmy Garoppolo is actually a very capable backup, and if we ever need him to come in relief for Matthew Stafford, whether it be we have enough wins to secure a playoff spot or the division, or if Matthew Stafford happens to go down, I love Jimmy Garoppolo. Very confident in him as a backup to run this McVay offense. And very happy for Stetson Bennett too. I am somebody who personally was down on Stetson Bennett the last couple of years and just didn't think he should stay on the team, but credit the Rams, they've stuck by him, and he's really proven to be a really good backup QB2, QB3 kind of quarterback throughout this preseason. So happy for him, happy for the Rams for sticking by him. And honestly, I think this is the deepest quarterback room that the Rams have had under Sean McVay. I think you look back in years past and they just didn't really invest in the backup quarterback position, and that was always worrisome, especially with a guy like Stafford who could go down at any time. So it's nice to have guys who you are confident in to fill in should they need to. At running back, we went a little bit lighter this year, keeping 3 guys, one being Kyron Williams, the other being Blake Corum, and the third being the rookie Jarquez Hunter. Obviously, I really like the running backs that we have. Couldn't keep them all. Cody Schrader ended up getting cut. Ronnie Rivers ended up getting cut, amongst others. But those were some of the bigger names that ended up getting cut. And I like this running back room. I love Kyron Williams, obviously coming off a fresh contract. And I love Blake Corum. I think that they both have a very similar skill set. And they're kind of like an engine for the McVay offense. But obviously, with the new add of Jarquez Hunter, I think that he can provide that explosive ability should the Rams need it. And he can be a little bit of a change of pace back. Obviously, it's a little bit lighter at running back at a position that could get injured with 3 guys, but I'm very confident in the 3 guys that they ended up keeping. And honestly, I really like the way this group turned out. Wide receivers, we kept Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Tutu Atwell, Jordan Whittington, Kanate Mumfield, and Xavier Smith. They ended up keeping 6 wide receivers, by the way. But this is a really cool wide receiver room to look at because everybody other than Devontae Adams was homegrown from the Rams, which I think is really cool to see just the development that the Rams have. And of course, Coach Yarber, great wide receiver coach. I really like the group that we ended up going with. Obviously, we had a lot of talent there that we had to cut. Like Brennan Presley was a big one that we ended up cutting, who showed out in preseason. Britton Covey, who was brought in for the return duties, ended up being cut. Honestly, I'm really happy for Xavier Smith, who was in that battle with Britton Covey. And I think it's really cool to see just the growth that he had in this year in particular and in the preseason, of showing that he's not just a return guy, but also he's a guy who has learned the route tree a little bit more, refined his route running, his hands, and is more reliable in being able to be used on the offense a little bit more than just a gadget guy or a return guy. So cool to see him stick around. Obviously, Kanate Mumfield has had a great camp. Rams love him. Their coaching staff, the whole brass, loves Kanate. Obviously got him in the 6th round this year. I didn't think he made as much noise as I was expecting heading into this preseason, but I think that what they've seen from practice has shown enough, and obviously enough to keep him on a very deep roster. And then Jordan Whittington, I think he's going to step in for Puka Nacua really well this year when Puka needs breathers or if he's hurt. I think he's kind of the clone of Puka in this offense, like as close as you can get. And so I'm actually very high on what Jordan Whittington can do with the opportunities that he's given. And then obviously Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, can't go wrong with those guys. I'm excited to see what kind of year that they have in tandem. The Rams ended up keeping 4 tight ends, and Tyler Higbee, of course, Colby Parkinson, Davis Allen, and Terrence Ferguson. I think that this is very interesting when you look at them keeping 4 tight ends. These are all very capable tight ends who I'd be comfortable starting. They have some different skill sets, especially when you look at Terrence Ferguson, who they just drafted, who can play a little bit like a big slot more than a tight end. I just really like the depth that they have at this position should any injuries happen or any relief need to happen with guys subbing in during the game. I'm actually comfortable with all these guys, and then obviously we'll see what Terrence Ferguson can do. I think it speaks a lot to the 22 personnel that the Rams are going to be running this year and some heavier personnel packages. and what the kind of mentality and physicality we're going to have and the ways we can change up the looks on offense. Keeping these 4 guys I feel very comfortable with, and I like this tight end group a lot. I'd even argue that it's the strongest tight end group that the Rams have had under Sean McVay. On the offensive line, we did keep 10 guys, starting off with AJ Jackson and then Steve Avila, Coleman Shelton, Kevin Dotson, Rob Havenstein, DJ Humphries, David Quessenberry, Bo Limmer, Justin Dedich, and Warren McClendon Jr. This is a very strong group. I really like the mix of guys who we have brought in from other organizations who've proven themselves as well with guys that we've kind of developed behind the scenes or even up front. I think the thing I would be most worried about is if any of our tackles ended up going down. I like David Quessenberry and DJ Humphries of what they provide as depth, but I honestly really like the interior of what we have going on there. Like if Coleman Shelton were to go down, very confident in Bo Limmer to be able to step in there. And we even have some flexibility to have guys on the interior move around a little bit more. Obviously, Warren McClendon, DJ Humphries, and David Quessenberry can all play tackle if AJ Jackson or Rob Havenstein don't go. But I think I would just be most concerned about the tackles, which still confident in right now if everybody stays healthy. I think this is still good depth. I would just say, like, if I were to have any concern, I think it would just be at the tackle position if injuries were to happen, or let's just say AJ Jackson, his blood clots don't go the way that we think and he has to go out. Whatever the case may be, tackle still a little bit shaky about, but I'm glad that they invested in some veterans who can step up and replace, who have proven themselves in the league. On the defensive line, we kept 7 guys, starting off with Poona Ford, Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk, Tyler Davis, Laryl Murchison, and Desjuan Johnson, as well as the new guy, Ty Hamilton. So I really like how we got some guys who can stop the run here, some guys who have proven it for a while, as well as be kind of hybrids and rush the passer, and guys that we have really gotten to know. I think this is a really strong defensive line group. No complaints here. At outside linebacker, the Rams ended up keeping 4 guys, one of them being Jared Verse, Byron Young, Nick Hampton, and Josiah Stewart, the new guy, of course. So the Rams are a little bit thinner at this position, and honestly, I was surprised to see Brendan Jackson get cut yesterday, just because we invested in him fairly high last year in the draft. He's a very high character guy, so it was kind of surprising to see him get cut. And to see Nick Hampton stay, obviously the coaches know more than I do. I just haven't seen Nick Hampton do a ton. Preseason, training camp, all that kind of stuff. But of course, the Rams have. They wouldn't kept him if they haven't. This is a very good edge group. Just hopefully, obviously, no injuries happen. I think you can flex guys from the defensive line to play that kind of like edge position spot. Somebody like a Desjuan Johnson, I could see doing that really well, and they've kind of like played with that a little bit. But obviously, you only got 4 guys there. I was surprised to see Brendan Jackson get cut. But obviously, you got to make the cuts when you have this deep of a roster. I think we have a really strong edge group here, just obviously hoping for no injuries. And now the polarizing subject here, the inside linebackers. The Rams ended up keeping 4 guys, one being Nate Landman, Omar Spates, Troy Reeder, and Sean Dolak. The big cut here, the big surprise that we saw was Pooh Paul, a guy who they invested in the 5th round, who had crazy comparisons and was having really high draft stock, not really a person that anybody had on the radar of being cut. He ended up being cut, and to the Rams fans' happiness, I guess Troy Reeder stays around again. I guess the Rams coaching staff just really likes Troy Reeder. I have huge expectations for Nate Landman and Omar Spates. Glad they're able to keep Sean Dolak. I was just very surprised about the Pooh Paul cutting, obviously, that we saw there, but again, Rams know better than me. I'm just a fan. I don't know, I'm not at every practice. It's just, given the upside of what Chris Paul Jr. had, I was just surprised to see that, the year that we drafted him, he ended up getting cut. But again, happy for the guys that made it. Happy for Sean Dolak. I think Sean Dolak is a guy that you needed to keep around. He'd be picked up. Just a little bit surprised by Pooh Paul getting cut. At cornerback, the Rams kept 5 players, one being Ahkello Witherspoon, the other being Darius Williams, Kobe Durant, Emmanuel Forbes, and Josh Wallace. So obviously not crazy deep at this cornerback position, but I think you got some safeties who can flex into that corner position should you need it, like Quentin Lake, like Cameron Kinchins, and even a guy like Jalen McCullough. You got some flexibility at this position. I really like the guys that we were able to keep. Excited to see what Emmanuel Forbes can do. Really excited for Kobe Durant to see just kind of the growth. He's gotten better every year, so it'll be fun to see what he can do. Obviously, Darius Williams and Ahkello Witherspoon being the kind of veterans who are going to be holding it down there. And then Josh Wallace, excited for him as a guy who was undrafted last year out of Michigan. Makes it on this team, very tough team to make. I think the Rams cornerback group is very solid. I think it's going to do a lot better than most of the people think outside the Rams fan base. But obviously, we'll see how far that goes. We'll see if any addition may need to be made mid-season or what ends up happening, but I'm pretty confident with the 5 guys that we kept. At safety, this is a very strong position for the Rams. We had to lose some key guys here, but the 4 guys we kept, Cam Curl, Cam Kinchins, Quentin Lake, and Jalen McCullough. Love the versatility of all these guys. Love just everything that they've shown on the Rams. These guys have been just some young superstars in the making, but obviously we had to lose out on guys. One of them, the biggest guys that Rams fans know, Tanner Ingle, who lit up the preseason. But even so, even with losing some of the guys that we did, I think that the safety group is very strong. Excited for just another year of growth for them and another year to work together in this Chris Shula scheme. And I really like the group that we got at safety. And at specialists, obviously we kept 3, Ethan Evans, Alex Ward, and Joshua Cardi. No complaints here. I really like the youth of this group, and I think that they're just going to keep getting better and better. Now, really quickly, some of the big surprise cuts for the Rams that were made, or just, I guess, bigger name cuts that were made. Safety Tanner Ingle, cornerback Darion Kendrick, outside linebacker Brennan Jackson, inside linebacker Pooh Paul Jr., and offensive lineman Willie Lampkin. All of us wanted Willie Lampkin to make the roster, the 5'11 center who was just mauling guys in preseason. But again, this roster is very competitive, and I think the cuts that we were making in these big names that you're kind of surprised to see cut is really only a good sign for the Rams roster, just to show how complete, how full, how much depth that it has. And if injuries are to take place in the season like they always do, I feel confident about guys that we have who have been developing or new additions that we've made. And I think this roster is looking really good, hopefully for a Super Bowl run. But I don't know. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Be sure to look out for that Rivalries uniform video coming out on Thursday. Excited to see what that looks like. I'm Rams House. Hope you have a great day. Horns up and God bless.